But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Yeah, you mentioned it there, which was my next point, would be stadium size. So we have competing ideas among the fan base here, where some of the locals want cheap tickets, as cheap as they can get them. They don't want prices to go up, even as we go up through the leagues. You know, keep it affordable. We need families to go. We need all the kids. One of the reasons they don't like the 3-match ticket is because of the heavy outlay in one go. If you're going to try and go to all 3 with families, which is understandable. But then the flip side counter to that is a lot of the people then also don't want a large stadium. They don't want potentially in the future huge amounts of international fans. They worry about if we start dropping back down the leagues, we're going to have nobody in our big stadium. Where there has to be a happy balance there, because international fans who do want to come over, one of the issues for them was they couldn't get tickets. And it was very hard to do so. And that's one of the reasons of releasing the 3 tickets together, is international fans can probably aim at the 3rd ticket, which is furthest away, have the most notice that they've got a ticket, get cheaper hotels, cheaper flights, cheaper everything. And it will work better for me. And I will actively target that 3rd ticket maybe first, knowing that this is happening in the future. So from that perspective, it's an okay idea. But if you get the stadium just large enough that every match is 90%, and then the bigger matches are, close to full, then you have the opportunity to keep your ticket price down and not to join Ticketmaster with dynamic pricing and absolutely whack people, which other clubs and Premier League clubs, and it'll probably happen at some point, but it will give the opportunity. So how big is too big in your mind? What do you think about stadium size? What do you think we need?
Yeah, well, there's got to be a sweet spot somewhere in there, hasn't there? But again, it's sort of trial and error. I would have thought they need to get the cop built, get 5,500 people in. That makes it 15,500 roughly.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a major stepping stone. And then you can look to work off that, I think, with whether we are sell out on that. If we sell out still, which we probably will, then I think you can look to where you go with, how to change the Mould Road or the Yale or the Macron or whatever, what you're going to do with those and how you improve those. I think 32,000 seater that was talked about is hugely ambitious with where we are at the moment. But saying that, if you do get top end championship, you're going to have a lot of away fans coming, so that you'll be able to sell 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 to them. And then obviously more interest will be created off the back of being at the top end of that league. And you never know, really. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do it. And you're not going to do it soon, are you, either? Because there's going to be a lot of changes going on to the stands. I would suggest you get the first one built, take stock where you're at, and then go from there. But we're trying to appease everybody, aren't we? All these, every Wrexham fan, we want to be able to come and watch. But at the moment, that's pretty impossible for the amount of interest that there is in the football club. Maybe in 2 years' time, that interest might have waned a little bit, or it might have gained. We just don't know because of the league that we're going to be in, and it's very difficult to predict that. But small steps, for me, it would be small steps. Get the cop built, see where we're at. If we fill that and everywhere else still, and we're still doing all right on the pitch, then we have to look at maybe changing another stand and then take it from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we won't discuss next season when we lose the temporary cop and we're in the championship and people are trying to get tickets. Let's ignore that season. But yeah, so Mike Williamson was talking about the rebuild and the stands. 15,500 will be the first one at the end of next season. Then that they can add another 2,000 seats in the Cop with the new redesign. So that can go up to 17,500. I'm hoping that they can do that during the 3 months of a summer, with the rest of it having been built. That would be my hope, that they don't have to shut it down again to add that 2,000.
I think it'd be maybe new planning as well for that, though. I think we'd need.
Yes, yeah. The planning has to go through to allow that. Yeah. But I suppose we have a year to do that, at least. Assuming you're going to immediately do it, which we may not. But you would have a full year then to do that. And then, he mentioned the other stands. So actually, first he said that was a 5-year plan. So that stand would be there the next 5 years, potentially with that extra 2,000 before they are looking to do the other stands. And then from there, it's probably another 5 to 10 years to be putting in the other pieces of the puzzle if they're needed. So I think that's fair. I think that's valid. And I think it's a decent plan. Build up the income as we go, take time, have it full almost constantly. And then add. Did you see the released picture for the Cop?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
What's your opinion on it?
I like the idea of the red brick. I liked it. I have had a sneak preview of a couple of other pictures as well, but I think it's very impressive. I think I'm sure the people that we've employed to have a design of this thing are top people, and so I think when it comes out, I think it will be very impressive. They're not going to do it by half, are they? If they're going to do it, they're going to do it properly.
Yeah,
and
we've looked at other designs that Populous have made, and they're lovely. They really have some nice stuff. So I can't wait to see the rest of the pictures.
Really key to keep local, keeping it local, keeping it Welsh, all that type of thing is really in keeping with the way that they want to run the football club, and I think that's why it's important that they do that. And we have got the right people designing it, and I'm sure when we see it in full glory in a 3D model somewhere, it'll be probably looking at a wow factor, aren't you, really, more than anything.
I don't think we have obviously the space on the tech end, but I was thinking that it would be amazing if you did the Cop in red on one end and then had a mirror image stand on the opposite end in black to represent the coal. I think that would look really cool.
It's space, isn't it, that side?
Yes,
but I think they're tweaking with pitches and could you move the pitch a little bit and all this sort of stuff. So I'm sure there's ways and means of maneuvering.
That's been discussed as well, and the plans maybe will start coming out from today. But I really would love it if they could have pushed the Cop back just a little bit, pull the pitch up to give more space on the other end. If it could give you matching stands, that would be excellent. But we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, more internationalization of the club. What say you? Light shows, yay or nay?
It's a bit American for me, but it seems to be coming in, dripping in, doesn't it, to the Premier League and dripping down really into the EFL as well. I think as a player, it's much of a muchness. Who really cares? You're fully focused on what you're doing. It's not for me, but what's to say somebody else doesn't love it and dances every time the lights come on? I don't know.
Okay, so you're probably on Team Local on that one.
Sorry.
No, look, each to their own. That's fine. I like them. I like light shows. Okay. I'm easily entertained and amused.
Yeah. Well, now we've got the lights. I suppose we can do it. The old lights. Somebody would have had to have gone up with like a cover over each one at different times to try and get it so it went right.
Okay, Mike Williamson. Some comments lately about his FID interview that was just released. We heard a lot of the comments before they came out. People were discussing it. And some of the parts that I think he didn't understand were a few things. One was with the cop, the temporary cop, and the extra £10 and the fan zone. It didn't sound like he really understood what the complaints were. Because he was mentioning, the name, we should never have called it a fan zone or whatever. And he was really focusing on that, when ultimately it was actually the cost of it is what people were complaining about. Now, I don't mind the cost of it, and a lot of the international fans are saying it's only £10. What's the problem? And I think if they had come out initially and said, we're after putting in the cop, but guys, it's very expensive for those seats, we're putting them up to £30. And we're giving a couple of drinks and facilities with it, I think people might have been more understanding had they just simply said, look, it's expensive, we need to cover costs, and it's an extra 3,000 seats, what do you want? Seats or no seats.
They've just got it they just got it slightly wrong. They just didn't foresee. Tradition is, as a football fan, I'll buy my ticket and I'll go and I'll sit down and I'll watch the game and I'll have a burger and the chips before the game. But to then be forced to pay more to go and have that burger potentially and have that beer, which is still a cost on top, I think that's where the stickiness sort of came with the idea. The fan zone is a good idea, I think, to get people to the ground earlier. They can have a bit of a jazz. There's the bits to do around there. I don't mind that idea at all. It was just them. Somebody's got to pay for it though to have it in there. So again, it's that trial and error thing. And I think it's probably when Ryan came to the game and there was empty seats behind it that it really hit home that the idea wasn't really working, and what we're offering as a stand without a roof for £10 more to go and get yourself a burger, that you couldn't sit anywhere else, so you had to sit there, so you had to pay the £10. It wasn't like you could choose something else. And so it was just, I think all of that culminated into one thing, that it just didn't sit right really. And thankfully, they could quite easily have stuck with it and been stubborn, but they've not. They've retracted it and gone, no, we got it a little bit wrong. We'll make it the ticket price, and you're able to go in and get your burger and stuff. And hopefully that's just appeased a few that weren't happy, and hopefully it gets a few more people in the ground.
Well, I'll give him a pass on that one, because he didn't start it. He wasn't here when the stop was put in, so that's not really a problem. The other thing I found he did not understand was part of the problem with the way they're releasing tickets. One, the triple ticket together, but two, the fact that there's such a short time between members and being released to the public. And this came to a head with the Birmingham match, where the tickets weren't immediately sold out to the members behind that paywall. And then Birmingham fans started buying up the cop tickets. And it led to somewhere in the region of 15, 20-ish Birmingham fans. Depending on reports you look at, there were incidents. Things weren't too nice for some people. Not the end of the world. These things happen. But he doesn't seem to understand the potential problem with that. He was saying, we'll stop it. We'll use postcodes in future to help block it or whatever. You're not going to be able to block it if you do it that way anyway. But the danger for me is nothing huge happened as a story that night. But imagine if something like that happened during a Shrewsbury match or a local derby and things kicked off in the stand. And we get press for everything, even the tiniest thing. Imagine if we actually had an incident of that type happen in the stadium. And I don't think he gets that at all.
I think what they've done is they're doing everything for the right reasons. Do you know what I mean? They're not doing it to try and cause problems. They're not trying to do it to sell them to Birmingham fans. You know, they've obviously
unintended consequences. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and people have taken advantage of that maybe we shouldn't have, but it's going to happen, unfortunately. All you can hope for is they learn from it and they can maybe work out what's a better way to do it, whether they keep it open to members for a little bit longer, whether they don't open it up to the, I don't know really understand the ticketing and all that anyway. But there's got to be a way of doing it that's better, that takes out that possibility of away fans getting tickets in Wrexham ends, for example. And that's why you bring in these high rollers, these people that are head of ticketing, head of media. You know, these are the ones that have done it and been there and done it and got great experiences at other clubs. They must know how these things work and what's the best way. It's just going to take time to get those people to filter and get the right staff in around them to put these right processes in play, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose, like, I'm not bringing it up to give him a hard time or anything like that. If anything, if anybody from the club watches this, I want to mention it because for the first time, I actually heard someone on another podcast mention Mike Williamson and the mistakes he's making, and saying that if he doesn't start doing correctly these things, that it's very easy to get rid of him when the fans turn on him. Now, I thought that was a massive overreaction to a couple of small mistakes by the club. But it's just interesting that, like, that has even been mentioned already over these things.
That's football. That's football. It's wicked business. I you know, he's moved over from a foreign country. He's got a lot on his plate with regarding to stuff off the pitch, with ticketing, with stands, with training grounds. There's a lot to go there at, and I think he's still finding his feet. You know, he's got to move over. He's got to move his family over here. You know, I think there's some leeway. He's been top draw at the other clubs that he's been at, and he's worked at a really high level. And I think that we have to give him time to put these processes in place and learn. As long as they learn from the mistakes that happen, then I don't think there's any issue. I don't think there's any issue. They're not stubborn. It doesn't look like they're stubborn. They're willing to try things, which is great, because anything could happen that goes well. It's just, you know, and they react to stuff that doesn't go well. And I think that's where they're at the moment. And I think they're putting good people in the right jobs to be able to filter down and get it done. It is just going to be, unfortunately, there's going to be bumps in the road as we go.
Yeah, I hope people really give him the time, you know, that he needs before going down this negativity road. Robin, Ryan, and all the guys have done so much for the club so far, you know, and I found it a little disrespectful, almost, actually, the way it was said, over what ultimately were small concerns that kind of led to the comment. And like, you normally see stuff like that on Red Passion, you know, on a forum, on a board or whatever. But I was surprised that one of the other podcasts actually brought that up so quickly.
But I think if you take a step back from the whole thing that's going on at Wrexham and you go back 5 years, you know, you sometimes have to get a bit of perspective on what's going on. You know, this football club's been transitioned into an absolute juggernaut of a football club that is making waves right the way through the EFL and the world. And sometimes the club are going to get it wrong. And the football has gone ever so well in the past 2.5 years. And we've got promotion out of leagues that we maybe didn't deserve to off the back of or merit at the start. But the players and the manager have done absolutely wonders, because promotions are very, very difficult to come by. And to get one out of the National League when Notts County were at us, and then to go again back to back has been insane. And to go again and be near where we are, I think sometimes you've got to go, well, let's give them a little bit of slack here, because it's all right. You know, I think if I saw another club that were doing what we're doing, I think I'd go, well played, you know, crack on and good luck, because we are miles ahead, I think, of where we thought we might be when Rob and Ryan came in. And I think we're still on that positive roller coaster that's all good. We're going in one direction at the moment. We're still going up. We're still playing all right. We're still winning football matches. There's a lot to be positive about, and a few negative thoughts or people that you're never going to eradicate them, but the minimal, if we can, and iron out the problems quicker, then the positivity can stay.
Yeah. Okay, back to story time. So, any interesting stories from the club since the takeover, maybe with an international twist? Any fans? Any conversations? Anything?
Well, I find it bamboozling. I get there 2.5 hours before kickoff to set up myself and get myself sorted. I travel 2 hours to the game anyway, so I like to get there early. I don't want to be in a panic. And normally the first people I meet are Americans, sat in the stands. We're from Idaho or wherever it is they're coming from, and I just still have to shake myself a little bit. I can't believe what's happened to the football club from where it was to where it is now. And I've had 2 spells there, nearly 10 years there, when it was tricky and when it was really solid. We had a really solid platform in 2000 under Brian Flynn, to having the roller coaster of emotions when the fans took over and the club nearly going out of business, to where it is now. It's insane what's happened. I was fortunate to go on the 7-a-side tournament, the TST thing in Carey, and that really blew my mind. That really did blow my mind, because I didn't think anybody would come, for starters. I didn't think anybody would be that interested. And you get out there and everything was red. The whole place was red. the games were fully red. The fans were dressed in Wrexham kits. They couldn't get enough of your time. It was just an amazing, and I was, what was I, 48 or something like that. I hadn't signed an autograph in 10 years, and they were asking for my, like, a little bit weird this, but it's just the interest. I was just fascinated by the interest and the reach of obviously the club at that point, and it's just gone on from there and on. And that would be the weirdest thing for me to tell you, is that I just can't get my head around how big a name now Wrexham is globally. It's mad.
We're playing in the tournament again this summer, I think was announced recently.
Yeah, I just saw that. I'm wondering if
are you playing? Are you playing?
No, I've not been asked. No, I didn't go last year. I'd love to go again. Listen, I'd love to go and put the boots on and represent the club, not just on the pitch but off it as well. But I think it's got a little bit more serious the second year than the first year. The first year was a little bit of what was this. The second year, I think they took a few more proper players. But yeah, it was mad. Brilliantly run tournament. We were really well looked after. I'd love to go again. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. Next up, you're going to have to help us out here. And Parky, managerial concerns. Now, I'm going to preface this first with we're third in the league. We are 4 points. We are 4 points off automatic promotion. So we are in the hunt for promotion to championship. However, even ourselves at the local pundit, it has been mentioned sometimes that we focus too much on some of the negatives. We kind of prefer to think of it as a bit of an analysis on the individual match, whereas sometimes you need to take a look holistically at things. But that's what we do. So some of the things that we majorly discuss or have discussed in the past with regards our setup, Parky, and all of this, maybe you can help show us a side of it that we don't understand. So first up, recently we have been playing 3-5-1-1 with Lee and Palmer up front. It's near unanimous from the fans, I think, that it did not work. And recently Mark Griffiths this week defended it on his own podcast and said that he saw that it was working. What's your opinion on this from a managerial perspective? Do you think it worked? Do you think it didn't work? Did we do it because we had to and didn't have other options? What say you?
Yeah, I think the first game that we tried it, I think we scored, Ollie Palmer scored a brilliant goal from us playing out from the back. And I thought we had been too direct in the games before that. So playing Elliot Lee sort of enabled us to try and play through Matty James a little bit more. And we scored a brilliant goal off it. And I thought, well, that's another string to our bow. Maybe we can play long, Palmer, but also we can play now through Matty James and the centre-backs and through to Elliot Lee, who can pick up pockets, dropping off the strikers rather than being in that midfield. But as it's gone on, and I think he's gone to that as well, he wanted to play a little bit more, but he didn't have a striker that was going well to put in. So I think he was sort of forced into, well, I've got to try something. Why not try Elliot up there and see what happens? And it sort of worked for the first few games, I felt. But we haven't played as much recently, and so that sort of negates him playing up there. You may as well go 2 strikers up and play. If you're going to play longer a little bit more often, you may as well go 2 strikers up and give yourself a double chance rather than 1. So I think not having a second functioning striker that was playing well
hampered the idea.
That's why it came from the idea. But now I don't think we'll see it again because we've got
new strikers.
Well, we've got 7 in the building.
Yeah.
So we haven't got one of those to play in 2 out of 2 of them to play up there. Then our recruitment is seriously wrong.
Yeah. Actually, there was a very funny post that was put out on social media about Parky's changing tactics, and it's 1-1-8, 1-1-8 formation.
Yeah. Well,
Lee was put in there as well as an attacker.
We've bought an ex-England international. We spent $2 million on a striker, but we'll just give Liam Palmer another 1 game.
Okay. Moving quickly along then. Okay, attacking defenders and defending attackers. We've had a lot of conversation lately about Scarr versus O'Connell, and the different players that they are, and that Parky seems to like O'Connell playing forward, coming out with the ball, and Scarr being a little bit more straight defensive. Now, I am of the opinion I like my defenders to defend. I like my attackers to attack. Palmer seems to be loved for his defensive duties in the box, his box, not the other box. And I would like things to be a little bit more straightforward as a general rule. But can you answer for us? Because this is huge among our channel at the moment. Scarr or O'Connell? Different players, different tactics.
Yeah, different players.
What's better?
Oh, it's a great question. I think 2 very good players. O'Connell probably got a better relationship because of he's been here longer with Max and with Tom, and Scarr coming in, not played too many games, hasn't been able to build up that relationship with those players yet. So I think O'Connell gives us a bit of a different dimension when he has the ball at his feet. He's able to pick a pass out. He's got a really good range of long and short passing, as he's shown in the games he's played. However, he has had a couple of games that he hasn't been very good in. But that happens. What we have got is a replacement to put in for him that if you don't play well, you're not playing, which is simple, which then Dan Scarr comes in, but then he doesn't have a great game. And so it flips again. What we have got all over the pitch is 2 players per position, which is strength in depth. And so if Cannon's not playing well, you've got Rathbone. If Rathbone's not playing well, you've got Dobson. If you've got Lee, we've got 6 centre mids. We've got 6 centre halves. We've got 4 wing backs, 5 wing backs. We've got 7 strikers now. So we've got definite strength in depth. I like O'Connell because he gives us a bit more with the ball. But if we're not going to play, then you don't need that. Does that make sense? And so you put somebody in that can defend. But we had a really poor performance against Stevenage. It's one of the worst halves I've seen for a long, long time. It just looked like we didn't know each other. It just didn't happen for us for whatever reason. And so, Phil Parkinson, you've got to make changes off the back of it. You can't leave it. And so he did, and he made 5 with Okonkwo as well. It sounds like he's not quite fully fit and not fully trusting of his wrist yet, which makes sense really, because he's come back quite quickly from that injury for a goalkeeper. And so he makes the change and puts O'Connell back in. O'Connell gets taken out after his disappointing performance at Barnsley and Shrewsbury. And, these are the kick up the backsides that managers are trying to get a reaction out of you from. But what you want is the player going in to do really well. And that position, Dan Scarr's not had the best of times going in. So it's back to O'Connell. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I'd be happy with either in there, really.
Yeah.
I think they're both good. So they both can play the level, definitely. They're both good enough. It's just which one's playing better and which one suits which games. See, the Birmingham game that Scarr came in for, we weren't going to have the ball a lot and we're going to defend. And he's good at that. But in the Stevenage game, we're going to have more of the ball, which isn't his game. And so maybe you're not going to change the team that played second half against Birmingham because we were really good. We were right at them and on the front foot. So as a manager, you're sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because they deserve to stay in the team. But is that team the right team for the Stevenage game? I wasn't so sure, because it was going to be more of a second balls, deal with first balls, that type of game. And so if he had changed it and we got beat, why did you change it? If you don't change it, you get beat. Why didn't you change it? As a manager, you're sort of stuck and you don't know what to do. But all you can do is just go back to making decisions for the right reasons and hope that the players go out and perform. And at the moment, O'Connell and Scarr they're just yo-yoing, aren't they? They're just yin and yang at the moment, where they've not really fell on consistent form, if you like.
Is it fair comment to say that Scarr hasn't been given enough time to become consistent? He was sitting for quite a while when he came in. Then he had a few matches and didn't seem to be playing out maybe the way Parky would like, but I didn't see any reason for him to be dropped. He was very good defensively. Then O'Connell came back in and he was sitting, and now he came back in for 2, maybe a bit of ring rust again. And now he's back out again because of whatever.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
If you're mid-table, you can afford to go. Mofal gone in for 7 games. Go and just play. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to go up. We're not going down. We're fairly comfortable, but we're trying to get out of the league. And so, and the squad that he's got, if somebody's not playing great for 1-2 games, I'm going banging on the door going, well, he's not great and he's played 2 games. I deserve a chance. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that strength in depth, they've got the option to flip it. If you're not playing well, you don't play. And that's generally the culture that they've had at the club. Play well and you stay in the shirt. And that's what Phil Parkinson does so well. If you do all right, you stay in the team. And I think the same could be said for Mullin this year. He's never had 6-7 games run of starting games because he's not producing, and so hence we moved to an Elliot Lee up there because we haven't got that striker that's doing what we want.
Considering what you just said, and a lot of teams wouldn't have a 1A and 1B for a position. There would clearly be a better player in general, and then there'd be the backup player. Well, we're in the lucky position that we have an extremely strong bench. And maybe in this situation with O'Connell and Scarr, can you or should potentially be Parky be playing them as 1A, 1B with when we're going more defensive, Scarr is in. When we're going to have more of the ball, O'Connell's in, until one of them then really messes up and then someone takes it as the dominant player. Is this not a thing? Parky doesn't do it, but
no,
we could argue this for multiple positions.
Yeah, because of players get in a rhythm. And when you're playing and you know you're playing, that breeds confidence. And then off the back of that, if you're performing, what is the justification of taking you out for a game? If I'm doing well and I'm doing all right and I'm performing, I should just play and play. And if my form dips, that's when I come out the team and somebody else gets the chance to go in. So to change it just off the back of who we're playing, I get that sometimes games are different, but at the back especially, I think if he could have the same back three and goalkeeper for the whole 46 games of the season, I think he'd take that, because it just gives you a fundamental base to play from. But we've had niggles, injuries, loss of form, etc. I think Brunt's done brilliantly well since he came back in the team. Obviously, the injury was a real big effect on us, but he obviously came back in on Saturday and did well. Who would be a manager? That was what I would say. 'Cause you can never, unless you win, which we've done a lot, you're never going to please everybody.
Yeah.
So as long as you're making the decisions for the team for the right reasons, then I think, and you can look at yourself and go, well, I've picked it for a reason. It didn't quite work, or it worked really well. I think, it's a tough job, and that's why they get paid the big bucks, right?
Yeah. Okay. So next one is the big topic, the big one: home form versus away form. Right. Fans are crying out for more attacking intensity on the road. They generally believe we are too defensive early when we get a lead. We go too defensive, especially away compared to home. Is this fair? Is Parky simply playing the numbers? 3 points at home, 1 on the road, 69 plus 13, 82 points, 4th place, job done. Is he looking at it as a whole?
Yeah, I think any point in this league is good, because you've got to look at where we've come from. So any point in League One is good. I would like them to take the handbrake off a little bit away from home. We drop into this mid-block, which we are good at. We don't let a lot of passing lanes. We move and shuffle across the pitch really well. And they have possession, but they don't really hurt us. But I just think with the players that we have now, why can't we go, like for the Crawley game, why can't we go pressing their back three and put them under a bit of pressure playing out? Are they that good that they'll play around us? Why don't we ask that question? But because we go ahead, it's sort of like it does become, we'll just protect that lead and maybe nick one on the break. And we do that at home. We keep going because the home crowd don't let us sit back and block. We just keep going. And so I would like us to go and have a go at somebody, especially the teams that aren't doing fantastically well. Why not go? I get with it. If you go to Birmingham, you're going to get bopped because they're good players. But I think if you're Crawley, if we go pressing their 3 centre halves with a plan of how we press, then I'm not sure they play through us every time.
Yeah.
And I would like to be a little bit more on the front foot. We come out, start the game on the front foot and turn them around and play. And why can't we continue that when, even if it's 0-0, keep continuing doing it. And we just tend not to. We tend just to sit back and invite teams onto us. And, Crawley played quite well and caused us a few problems.
They did.
And it was coming, wasn't it? You could tell that there was a goal coming, just hanging in there. And then they score. And then the first real passage of play that we get, that we keep the ball and make a few passes in that second half, we score from. Or we have a chance from Stephen Fletcher header.
Yeah.
And you just want, I think that ball retention away from home is really key. We give it up and we're happy for the opposition to have it. But if we kept it and moved the ball a little bit, I think we would be able to dominate games because we've got the players to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we don't know what Parky was told at the start of the season, what expectations actually were for a season. So was he told we want to be in the championship next year, playoffs is good, comfortable, upper table? We don't know what that was. That's fine. At the start of the season, most fans and commentators and everybody else were saying that, upper mid-table would be a nice first season. Maybe playoffs, if we could push for it. Or what I was saying is I would like to have a playoff push at some point, even if we don't make it by the end of the season. Now, things have changed, and we're just coming out of the window. We're in third, and we're only 4 points off second. At what point is it fair to readjust your expectations and expect Parky to be pushing and then to be critical if he doesn't make it?
Great question. I think I sort of said 10th at the start of the season. I'd take 10th now. Comfortable, like you say, maybe pushing the playoffs. I think that had been a good season for us from where we've come from. Take stock a little bit, let the club catch up, like we spoke about, and everyone's happy. But the start of the season, I thought we looked fitter. We looked really well organised. I think the pre-season was a massive bonus. We've really learned from last year's. And so we set off loads better than we did last season, and which gave us a chance. And we've continued that. And I don't think we've been fantastic, but we've found a way, which is a really good trait for a team to have. And so come to January, you're right in the mix. So if you're 10th, 12th in January, I don't think we have to make a Smith signing. I don't think we have to make a Rodriguez signing. I think we maybe bring in a player that we can drip feed in, a Mo Farl, go on then play 7 games because we're not really pushing. We can really develop him as a player. But because we're where we're at, this doesn't happen every season. And so you have to, from my point of view, if you've got the opportunity to, you've got to go and strengthen. You've got to go and get those players that you believe is going to get you out of the league, because we might be 12th next year and we might not get this same opportunity.
Yeah.
And they've certainly done that. They've gone and got the 2 strikers, which was really good signings, both of them, experience and goals and youth and pace, to have a go, which I didn't expect anything less, if you like, because I think they're thinking of the same thing as we are. I think if we got in the playoffs this year, that would be a significantly better season than I thought. And I think you take that all day long, and you never know. A Wembley trip would be amazing for the group, for the club, and for the fans. And I don't think you would look at Parky and say he's underachieved if we did that from this position. I really don't. If we don't make the playoffs from this position, it would be slightly disappointing, but still you've got to reflect on it and see it as a half decent season. You know what I mean? You've still got to look at the positives and say we were right at it all the time. We just didn't probably have the quality to get over the line. But I think they've done incredibly well. And if they do get in the playoffs, fingers crossed they do, or that automatic spot, and just keep pushing and keep moving forwards, if you like. Don't stay stagnant. Then I think it's been a fantastic season.
Okay. Next one. How far can our 3-5-2 style go? Assuming tactics don't particularly change, but we do keep upgrading players in all positions as required. How far can it get us? Can it get us up in the championship? Where in the championship? What do you think we can do before we need a major change in tactics?
Interesting. Well, it's not served us too badly, has it, for the past 2.5 years, 3 years, and the players absolutely know their job in the team. Set pieces, passages of play, patterns of play. They all know where they're meant to be, and so it's drilled in at the moment. So where it can take you is, if you get better players, who knows? It could take you right the way as far as you want. There's teams in the Premier League playing 3-5-2, and the system is good if you've got the right players and you've got round pegs in round holes, if you like. It's, for me, it is we don't retain the ball enough in home and away games to dominate opposition. And so we're always going to give up a few chances because they have the ball more than us. And I think at some point that will have to evolve to us playing a little bit more and keeping the ball a little bit more. But that may come with better players. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that might have changed. We are a direct team. We play off second balls. and we look to cross it in the box, which a lot of teams don't. They normally look to play, but we are a crossing team. We've got the 2 highest players with the most amount of crosses in the league playing for us. So that would tell you that that's how we score a lot of our goals, is from crosses. I would like us to evolve to be able to score goals a different way, not just for set pieces and crosses, but to play little relationships, a bit like Stevenage. If you watch Stevenage, the front 3 were very fluid in the way that they moved and around, and I felt we did that a little bit at the start of the season, but we've sort of gone away from it. And I would like to go back to that a little bit, getting Elliot Lee half turn, little round the corner into Marriott feet, and he played a little 1-2 with Fletcher or Mullet or whatever. That is the type of goal I would like to score, as well as crossing it. Do you know what I mean? Can we do both? And I think that's the way and how we will evolve to maybe scoring even more goals.
Yeah, I would maybe argue that the best part of the 3-5-1-1 at the start, when we were trying it, is we were playing a bit more through the middle, and we were getting balls straight into the box rather than from the wings as much. And there was definitely comments on some of those matches that, it was a nicer flow and more attacking options than we've previously had. So maybe that element of it was working, but needs to be adjusted on it. Okay. So another question that has come up is championship next year when we're there. Of course, we're going to go up. So 2 competing thoughts. One is people saying that we're going to get absolutely hammered in the championship with our tactics, and we're at risk of coming straight back down. And others are saying that no, the style we have is actually conducive to being able to hit mid-table comfortably. We will certainly lose more matches, but we will be a winning team in that we can beat teams. We're not going to be loads of draws. We would have to go more wins, more losses with not so many draws. What's your take on that?
Well, I sat next to Rob McCaffrey on Saturday, and at 1-0 up, he just wrote "functional" on my pad when I'm doing the Coke. And I think that is exactly what we are. We're a very good functioning unit. We don't give a great deal away. We're always in games. We don't concede many. We score goals. So that's a good recipe for a good team and a successful team. So if you take that and go up a level, I still think it's an okay way. Well, would we come down? It would be much harder, much difficult. I think this League One to the Championship is the biggest jump, because the finances from League One to the Championship are a completely different ball game. There's teams losing. The league on average loses 400 grand a week per team. That's a lot of money. And we're not in that. We're nowhere near that stratosphere at the moment. We obviously have a lot of income, got good sponsors, etc. We're full. The ground's full. Good reach merchandise. All that sort of thing comes into it. But these teams they're good. They're very good. And so every game would be like a cup final for us. But what we would do is, if we did get up, we would go and get better players. We'd have to. Our budget would have to go up. We'd have to have more investment from outside, which I think we've got with this Allen family. And so that would evolve. So we would have a better chance. Would the way we played on Saturday be good enough for mid-table in the Championship? I doubt. Something would have to evolve and change, and maybe what we spoke about. But that's not to say, when you've got a functioning team that functions well, it won't do all right in that league as well.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about an evolving team, lots of comments seem to favor the idea of us occasionally, or at least sometimes, playing a 4-3-3 scenario. Now, we tend to bring in wingers and train them to be wingbacks. So with the players we have at the moment, are we anywhere near being able to put out a team in 4-3-3 configuration that might work?
It won't happen.
Oh no, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, he will not change. The only adaptation that he makes is going to a 4, but goes with a diamond, drops a striker in, and we still play with 2 up front. And that's what he tweaks if things aren't going quite right to a change. He won't go to a 4-3-3. Have we got the players? Yeah, maybe we have. Yeah, with Longman now coming in, Barney. Maybe we have, but I can't see it happening. I really can't. I don't know why you would.
No one can.
Yeah,
but it's
exactly,
a constant comment. It is a constant comment though that
I bet
the style would suit us.
Yeah. Well, if we weren't winning and doing well, it would be
you could try
massive.
it.
Yeah. And if you're mid-table, you could potentially try things. We're just not in that place at the moment. Yeah,
and Parky is risk adverse in general, but you should be at this end of the table. You know, 2-3 matches can destroy your chances of automatics at this stage.
Absolutely.
So yes, it's not worth the risk. I understand that. Okay, we are near the end. Story time. So, okay, where's my story time gone? Here. Have you had a period of time where you were trying to implement your tactics and the fans completely misunderstood what you were trying to do? They couldn't comprehend it, couldn't see what you were trying to do? Or
not really. We were very 4-3-3 when I was managing. The players knew their roles, etc. But what we didn't have was strength in depth. We didn't have 2 players per position, and so we were ending up. You know, I had a player called Johnny Hunt, played left back, but he ended up playing left side midfield. He played at left wing because we had to come up with met ways of putting out a team that we thought was capable, and he was reliable. He worked hard. So we were never really in the realms of, well, I'll just take him out and put him in because he's just equally as good like they've got now. It was needs must at our time. Do you know what I mean? No. I look back on a couple of recruitment players that I brought in that they didn't quite fit. They weren't quite right, but I think you always have those. We got some right, some wrong. I brought in Mark Carrington, who was an amazing signing for nothing, really. And then, you know, made a few errors, but I think as a manager, you're going to get some wrong. My real thing was that we did well in the trophy and won it, and we did well in the league, and we didn't go up, which was a horrible day against Newport. And we really wanted to kick on, and we really needed something, but we just didn't quite have the finances and the ability to go and kick on. And we had to sort of, you know, trade and work with what we had, with adding stuff that wasn't really any better than what we got. And we were losing players as well. You know, we were losing our better players because we couldn't pay them as much. And it was difficult. I wouldn't have minded the budget now, put it that
way. Okay. Pretty much one remaining question. This is on new players. I purposely kept this area short because there's a million questions we could ask, but they'll stand. So the one for now that nobody seems to be able to figure out for sure is Longman. Where is he going to play? And who is he challenging for? So is he only direct competition for Barney? Or is he actually also competition for McLean on the left? And is he potentially even looking at positions like Lee?
Yeah. I think he's competition for Barney, definitely. I think we saw that on the weekend.
Yeah.
He put 2 brilliant crosses in. One for the goal and one for Fletcher's header. He looks like he's got a little bit of quality. He has got versatility, so he could play on the McLean one if you wanted to go with really attacking. Because I think Barney's brilliant going forward. He's done his defensive jobs, but he's the creator. Whereas McLean is your 7 out of 10. Doesn't really pick wrong. Yeah, and up and down, and is very, very reliable. But if you wanted to go with two Barneys, if you like, of real attacking threats, you could play Longman on that side. I think Luke Bolton getting injured, he's got a real problem with his calves. I think both calves, he's having real issues with it. So he would have been the cover, if you like, for Barney. Yeah. So I think that's why Longman's been brought in to play that side with Barney and competition. But also he can, if you watch his highlights, he cuts in from the left as well.
Yes,
and does really well on that side and scored a few goals for Millwall with that way. So I think he's possibly, cover for both, but also in £500,000 and he's on your bench. You know, we're in a different stratosphere. Like I said before, you know, if we made a signing like that, he'd have to play every week. But Park is very, he's very sparing, isn't he, with these new signings? Apart from those two that he just dumped in there because he had to. He'll drip feed them in and they'll find their feet. And he looks like he'll just develop and play. And maybe next season you'll see the best of Longman more likely.
Yeah, in fairness for Barney, it's only that one match recently that he played somewhat poorly in. Pretty much every other match he's been consistent in his play and everything he's done.
Yeah, if he got injured without Longman, you'd be looking at a left footer on the right side and the balance, you lose the balance. So I think they've signed Longman as either a replacement, long-term replacement for Barney. Is it a better option, or is Barney just brilliant? He is brilliant, by the way. and he's been fantastic. And he's probably player of the year so far for me. He's that consistent. But certainly we have always wanted two players in each position, and with the injury to Luke Bolton, I think it gives them that competition on that side.
Would Max not potentially be your player of the year as an attacking defender?
Goal scoring centre half. No, it's been brilliant, hasn't he, Max? And listen, I think there's a few contenders for the player of the season so far, but the expectation of what Ryan Barnett would bring to the team this year and what he has delivered is far exceeds what I felt he could do, and he's been 1v1. He absolutely stepped up, raised his game again, and he's done it in both leagues. And who knows where his potential could take him.
Okay, let's, I think, end it on a positive note. That's an excellent end to it. We've gotten through everything. You stayed with us. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. So thanks very much for your time, Andy. I'm sure everybody will enjoy that. That's been a great conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And great answers. No problem. We'll have a little talk after 2 seconds. I'll just say goodbye to everybody. And we are done. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gents, that has been it. A long chat, 1 hour and 40 plus minutes of Andy's time. Thank you very much for spending that long with us and going through all the questions we had. And everybody at home, we will see you soon. Take care, everybody. On that bombshell, we are out of here.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!